Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. While we wait for everyone to log in, I want to take the time to introduce myself, the panelists, and the National Volunteer Fire Council, as well as outline today's event will unfold. My name is Dave Lewis, and I wear many hats, one is which being the National Volunteer Fire Council Director from Maryland. I'm an active volunteer member of the Odin Volunteer Fire Company in Maryland, an emergency services instructor at the Maryland Fire and Rescue Institute, adjunct assistant professor for the University of Maryland Global Campus, and an instructor at the National Fire Academy. I'm pleased to be joined today by my good friends, Jack Sullivan, Director of Training at the Emergency Responder Safety Institute, and Chief Judy Thill, NVFC Director from Minnesota, and Fire Chief at Inver Grove Heights Fire Department in Inver Grove Heights, Minnesota. Before we begin, I want to briefly introduce the National Volunteer Fire Council and today's topic. The National Volunteer Fire Council is the leading nonprofit membership association representing the interests of volunteer fire, EMS, and rescue services. The National Volunteer Fire Council mission is to provide a unified voice for the volunteer fire and EMS organizations across the United States. We provide resources, training, advocacy, and programs to help the volunteer emergency services thrive. You can learn more about the National Volunteer Fire Council and what they do, as well as the resources at www.nvfc.org. If you're not a member, I would encourage you to join. For just $18 a year, you can have access to a variety of benefits such as free training in the NVFC virtual classroom, access to the Volunteer Voices member community, and much, much more. Learn more at www.nvfc.org/join. Today's discussion is focused with Crash Responder Safety Week, or CRSW, formerly known as National Traffic Incident Response Awareness Week, which is being scheduled this year from November 8th to the 14th. Emergency responders face many dangers while responding at the scene of vehicle accidents, and CRSW is a great time to highlight these dangers, promote best practices to keep you and your fellow responders safe, and engage with the public to disseminate safety messaging. So far, according to statistics collected by the Emergency Responder Safety Institute, there have been 51 roadway fatalities this year, and that includes fire and EMS, law enforcement, tow operators, public works, and any other individuals working along the nation's roadways. We have to do a better job at educating the public to be aware of the need to keep us safe. We also have to take our own measures to keep us safe. That's the purpose of today's discussions and the focus of CRSW. So to begin this discussion on this challenge, I have some questions in front of me to ask our panelists. But if you, our audience, have any questions, please feel to write them in the comments below, and we'll do the best to answer all that we can. So let me begin with some questions. Let me start with you, Jack. Jack Sullivan from Emergency Responders Safety Network. What are some of the dangers that emergency responders face at the scene of vehicle accidents?
Well, obviously, the one that we're most interested in today's discussion are secondary crashes. When we have personnel, any of the ones that you just listed, operating at incident scenes, being struck by another vehicle is the main issue that we're dealing with. And one of the situations that's developed over the last few years that seemed to have been taken care of a while ago, but it's resurfaced its ugly head, is the number of responders that are being struck by our own vehicles. In at least 3 cases this year, backing up at incident scenes, striking and killing firefighters in this particular case. I thought we had solved the backing apparatus problem many years ago, but over the last few years, we've had about 6 different incidents that involved emergency vehicles backing up at incident scenes, striking and injuring, and in this case, striking and killing firefighters. So we need to be cognizant of our own apparatus and equipment moving around at incident scenes also.
Wow, thank you, Jack. There's certainly some grim words we need to take heed to. So Judy, let me ask you, have you ever personally experienced a struck by or a near miss incident during a response? And if yes, what would you say contributed to that event?
Well, unfortunately, I have. I started teaching this subject back in about 2002 and never thought I'd end up being a poster child for it in 2017 and 2018. We had 2 within about 5 months of each other. The first one, it was a fatal crash. We set up our tender, which has a great big giant arrow board on it. State Patrol was blocking the other lane. of the 2 lanes that were going that direction. We were pushing everybody off on the exit ramp, and unfortunately a .24 driver did not see the big arrow board right in front of her, and she ran right in the back of our tender and actually totaled it. Fortunately, nobody was in the tender. When everybody heard the tires screeching, because she did slam on the brakes right at the very last minute, all the responders went jumping behind something, but nobody was hit. She was the only one injured. She actually only had minor injuries. Then about 5 months later, we were called to a crash. It was a really bad morning for icy roads. Being in Minnesota, we have quite a few of those. And so we were off on the shoulder tending to the one that had just spun out. And sure enough, if conditions are right for one crash, we always say conditions are right for a second one in the exact same place. And you'd be surprised on just how many times that actually happens. So a vehicle slid right into the back of us, damaged our tailboard a little bit, damaged the car more. No injuries there. But we also had about 4 or 5 more near misses before we got everything set up and got people slowed down. So that's one of the things I just like to throw out. If you're out there, and especially with winter coming up in a lot of different states and snow and ice and everything, conditions are right for one. There's a really good chance, if you don't have your scene set up quickly and appropriately, that there's going to be another crash right where you are.
Thank you, Judy. I'm certainly glad to hear that everyone did turn out. I think, Jack, you mentioned the predominance of secondary crashes are probably more dangerous to us than the primary crashes. Is that true from your research and experience?
It sure seems so. I would tell you that Judy's comments about the secondary crashes at crash scenes is right on the money. We've been tracking these numbers for a bunch of years, and consistently, one of the most frequent places for firefighters and EMTs, especially, to be struck are at the scene of a previous motor vehicle crash. And I was looking at the numbers over the last 3 years. 41 of the fatalities that we've tracked in emergency services have occurred at motor vehicle crash scenes. The only number that's higher is disabled vehicles, which is primarily driven by the towing and recovery business. But that consistently has been the #1 location or type of incident for a struck by or secondary crash, and motor vehicle crash scenes are always in the top 1 or 2. It varies a little bit year to year, but at the moment it's running #2.
And Dave, I'd like to also jump into, and Jack's very much aware of this because we both teach the same thing. When it comes to the dangers, especially right at the crash scene, but also those secondary crashes in the backup, are the idiot drivers that we have to worry about. The D drivers, there used to be 5, now we're up to about, 7 or 8, if you really want to rattle them off. Distracted, drunk, drugged, drowsy, deranged, disturbed, disoriented, don't give a rip, and just plain dumb. I don't know if there's any other ones, Jack, that you want to add, but I mean,
yeah, we added a new one this year, driverless.
Oh, there you go.
Vehicles where the drivers aren't paying attention and aren't operating the vehicle has contributed to a number of secondary crashes now.
Yeah, so I mean, we just can't predict. We can set up our scenes really, really well, but we can't predict those drivers and what they're going to do, or the vehicle without the driver.
So let me ask you, Judy, what actions should emergency responders take to prevent personal injury while responding to incidents on the roadway?
Well, you have about 4 hours. No.
No, we don't.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's just lots of them. One thing I'll start out with, and then I'll give Jack a chance, is a lot of the actions need to happen before you ever get called to a roadway incident. We want to try to prevent the secondary crashes, ones that are caused by either how we respond or how we set up our scenes. So it's important to get training both in emergency driving with your personal vehicle and your emergency vehicle, because a lot of volunteers responding either to the station or to the scene need to know how to drive appropriately and safely. In Minnesota, 2 of our driving related incidents were responders, volunteer responders, either going to the station or going to the scene, and they were both killed. So you know, you have to be trained in safely getting to the scene, because if you don't get there, you're no good to anybody. And you know, then training in setting up the scene with the traffic incident management program that's out there, the TIM training that's available to everybody. I have some others, but I'll let Jack jump in and give him a chance.
I always suggest that people start, at least on the fire service side anyway, with the outline provided in NFPA 1500 that now has an entire chapter devoted to traffic incident management. And it provides a really good outline to make sure your department is touching all the bases. And the first thing they suggest is that every fire department should have an SOP or standard operating guideline, if you prefer, on how you want your personnel to operate at a roadway incident. They want every fire department now to provide training, whether you call it traffic incident management, roadway incident safety, or whatever else you want to refer to it as. We want to make sure that everybody, including new people especially, before they're ever allowed to respond directly to an emergency scene, have some sort of training in traffic incident management or roadway incident safety. We want everybody to collaborate, communicate, coordinate with the other agencies that we work with on a regular basis. Judy mentioned temporary traffic control devices and that temporary traffic control or work zone, advanced warning in some way, shape, or form. NFPA doesn't say the firefighters have to do the advanced warning, but somebody at each incident has to take the steps necessary to make sure that some agency, whether it's DOT, maybe a safety service patrol, police officer, fire police in some areas of the country where fire departments have them, or some other agency is detailed to provide advance warning of an incident up ahead and to protect the back end of a queue or backlog. First arriving apparatus on a scene should set a block, making sure that when we've got good temporary traffic controls in place, I know this is one of the more controversial items that NFPA points out, but we can start to reduce the intensity of the emergency warning lights that are displayed at an incident scene. We want to make sure that any additional apparatus, and especially EMS units that are going to be loading patients, are on the downstream side of the block so that they're protected from oncoming traffic. And we want to make sure that the members are wearing their high visibility garments as appropriate. In some cases, maybe the appropriate PPE is their turnout gear, depending on the type of incident that they're responding to. But if they're exposed to moving traffic and not exposed to fire, heat, flame, or hazardous materials, we want to make sure that they're wearing their high visibility gear too.
Okay, very good, very good. You know, there really are two sides of this equation. One is the responder safety side. That's us, and certainly the public and what we should do to that. So, Judy, what would you say are some strategies and methods that we can use to communicate with the public on the dangers that the emergency responders face and what part they need to play in keeping us safe?
One of the things that I try to get across in my classes is set a good example. I've seen many firefighters in their personal vehicles with fire plates that don't follow the guidelines, such as slowing down and moving over, and actually putting some other responders in risk when they're going through somebody else's scene. Had a situation at another department where I worked, where we were off in a shoulder on an exit ramp. I canceled the incoming truck because we already had one truck on scene. That's all we needed. And didn't that engine just blow by us on the exit ramp going about 40 miles an hour? And yeah, I had a little talk with them afterwards, but I mean, setting a good example in your personal vehicles, setting a good example in emergency vehicles, kind of showing people what they should be doing is a really good thing. Also, I've taught different high school classes and really tried to get the point across in those. Our Citizens Academy. I've tried to, I put together an actual program for our Citizens Academy to help them keep us safe, but also keep themselves safe so they don't have secondary crashes. And social media is huge these days, using that to get our message out.
Okay, so Jack, I kind of twist it around a little bit, and if you could speak directly to the public, what advice would you give them to help prevent injury to our firefighters and EMS personnel, and actually the other public safety people as well, working out on roadway incidents?
I think the first and most important thing that we've got to address and try to change is driver behavior. And the number one thing is just pay attention to the act of driving. So many people are doing things other than actually operating their vehicle when they're traveling down the roadway. I've even got some video clips at this point of drivers sound asleep at the wheel of a Tesla or other manufactured vehicle that has automated driver assist devices, and they're letting the car do the job for them. What they don't understand is that most of those cars will beep and warn you that there's an obstacle or a blocking engine, for example, up ahead, but it won't take evasive action by itself. The driver has to take over and manipulate, either stop the vehicle if necessary, or maneuver it around the stopped or blocking vehicle that they're coming up on. And if the driver's sound asleep behind the wheel, which we know happens, there's no way that they're going to wake up, understand what's going on, and take the appropriate actions in a time that's going to prevent them from running into the blocking vehicle. So number one is we need everybody who's operating the vehicle to pay attention to where they're going, what they're doing, watch out for things up ahead. When you see flashing lights up ahead, we want people to slow down, pay attention to what's going on, move over if it's appropriate, to get away from the emergency responders, give them some room to work, watch the other traffic around them. Don't take video, don't take pictures as you're going past the incident scene, which we see so many occurrences of. Pay attention to where you're driving and the vehicles in front of you, and operate your vehicle to protect not only yourself, but the other motorists around you, and certainly the responders at the incident scenes.
Okay. Judy, your message for the public?
Pretty much the same as Jack's. The pay attention piece, like pay attention all around you, what's in front of you, slow down traffic behind you. If you see something up ahead, rather than slam on your brakes or stop quickly, try to slow down the people behind you. And otherwise, if they aren't paying attention, they're going to run in the back of you, and you're going to have that secondary. Always scan. Most people watch only one vehicle in front of them. They really don't scan ahead, and they just aren't prepared for those sudden things, whether it's a road incident or whether it's a previous incident, debris on the road, anything like that. They just aren't prepared for it. So they're slamming on their brakes, and either they're hitting somebody else or somebody else is running into them. So yep, pay attention.
Hey, Dave, there's one more thing too. And we've started to mention this in some of the situations where we get to speak directly to the public. It's important for parents to provide good role model type activity when they're behind the driver's wheel in a vehicle, so that the teens who are growing up and about to get their learner's permit or driver's license learn to drive the right way and not necessarily the angry way, as I like to talk about. My kids can still, to this day, repeat every nasty word I've ever used while I was driving a vehicle. They tend to remember that stuff, but they also remember the way that we drive. And as your children get older and get approaching their teens, getting ready to get a driver's license or a learner's permit, we need to pass along good driving habits and the rules of the road, so to speak, so that they learn from the very beginning the way to operate, especially around an emergency incident or when an emergency vehicle is approaching them from the rear en route to an incident scene.
Okay. Well, Jack, I know the Emergency Responder Safety Institute has been around for more than 20 years and really has been, one of the leading organizations on a nationwide level, pushing for responder safety on the roadways. I know that there's quite a bit of information available from the Emergency Responder Institute. Could you kind of briefly explain for us what kind of resources and training they do provide? And is there any cost for accessing this?
First and foremost, everything that's on our website and in the Learning Network is free. And when I say it's free, there's no charge for anyone to access the information or use the Learning Network. But I hope everybody understands that it's free because we were able to create that material through grant funding that we received from a number of sources. One of the primary sources for the Learning Network has been the U.S. Fire Administration through FEMA grants that we've been able to use to build the back end, so to speak, of the learning network, and the immense number of volunteer hours that have been provided by experts from around the country on the various subjects that we have out there. So the Learning Network has more than 42 different modules on all aspects of roadway incident safety at this point in traffic incident management. There are several other modules that are in development right now. One to address the wildfire environment and traffic incident management. We're constantly adding, and we just got another grant recently that will allow us to do 3 more modules in the next couple of years. So the Learning Network will continue to grow. In addition, on the website, we carry news stories about struck by incidents to keep the subject in front of people and help them understand that this is an ongoing problem. There isn't too many days that go by that I don't get a report of some sort involving a secondary crash and an emergency responder or an emergency vehicle of some sort someplace in the country. We can't in any way, shape, or form post all of the news stories that we get on these struck by incidents, but we try to put the representative ones out there on a regular basis to keep it in the forefront. And then we've got tons of reference materials and an entire page of resources designed to help public information officers and for public education related to this subject of distracted driving, how to operate your vehicle around an emergency scene. We've got PSAs, public service announcements, that you can use in your social media posts. We've got scripts that you can use in talking to the media after a struck by incident to give you an idea of some of the messages you should be passing along. The new news media always likes to talk about the crash and what happened. We should try to take advantage of that time if we're interviewed for TV news report or a follow-up newspaper story to educate people about how they should react to an emergency scene on a roadway and talk about some of the points we've already mentioned here today. All of the resources on the website and the Learning Network are free. There is no charge to anybody for any of this. And we've even put one full page of all kinds of resources specifically devoted to the Crash Responder Safety Week that's coming up. So there's all kinds of ideas and links directly to materials that are associated with that event coming up in November.
Okay. Do you know National Volunteer Fire Council and Emergency Responder Safety Institute both are big movers and pushers behind the Crash Responder Safety Institute? Are there other organizations involved, and are they providing resources as well?
There are other organizations that have certainly supported it. In the fire service, we've got FDSOA, the International Association of Fire Chiefs, the International Society of Fire Service Instructors. Almost everybody's involved in it in some way. You'd have to check their individual websites and resources to see what kind of materials they may have available that are related specifically to that week.
Okay, and I think we'll also be providing the link to the Crash Responder Safety Week network online there, the webpage. And I know there's some resources that have been tagged to that, so that'll be a resource. This question come from one of our listeners, so I want to make sure I got that out there. So Jacqueline, let me go back to the Responder Safety Institute training. I know a lot of departments get concerned about credentialing and certification, professionalization. Are there any professional designations available under this in competing the coursework for the Responder Safety Institute provides?
Well, there's a couple things. We always recommend that everybody complete the National TIM training in a variety of different ways. Obviously, we all support the idea of instructor-led training. Anytime you can get a mixed audience of all of the various disciplines in the same room at the same time to talk about the subject and interact with each other, that's the most desirable way to receive the training. There are several online variations of the TIM training that are available that people can take to get that basic knowledge of it. But the interaction that goes on in a classroom when you have a mixed audience is not only the most effective and efficient way to provide that training, it's also the most fun way to do it. And especially if you have time to do tabletop exercises with all of the different participants involved, that's where the real learning comes into play for the most part. So When we talk about professional designations, we were able to work with the fire department safety officers over the last few years to come up with a pro board certification for traffic incident management professionals, if you want to put it that way, or what we call the TIM technician credential. There's a variety of different ways, again, to get that, but you have to be conversational about all of the traffic incident management procedures and protocols that are suggested and recommended. There's a study guide that we put together on the respondersafety.com website that you can use as a guide on the material that you should know well before you sit to take the exam. And then the FDSOA is the agency that actually takes care of administering the exam. And then a pro board certification for a TIM technician is awarded after the successful completion of the requirements for the TIM Tech certification.
Okay, very good. You know, I know a lot of what's on the Responder Safety Learning Network is focused on individual self-paced learning, but is there something that I can take back as a department's training officer to use for in-station training so that I could deliver this to all people instead of directing all my people to go do it on their own?
Yeah, we put together a series of roadway safety teaching topic packages. So there's 10 different subjects that we identified that we've put the materials out on the website, available for download at any time, 24/7, 365. So we'll take the subject of blocking, for example. It'll give you a lesson overview or agenda that you should follow. It'll give you an introductory video that you can use to just introduce the subject and talk about which way you're going. It gives you all the background materials that you need, case studies that might apply to that particular subject, where blocking has protected responders and where fatalities have occurred, even when blocking was in place. We have to remember sometimes it's not just the responders that we're trying to protect, but there have been too many cases of people running into stopped and blocking fire apparatus and who've been seriously injured or died from that secondary crash. So everything we do, we've got to be thinking about the big picture and not only protecting the responders and the victims that we were responding to help in the first place, but also the other motorists that are around us too. And we want to make sure that everybody's got that in mind as they go about it. So these teaching topic packages that we put together, 10 of them, are meant to be customized by a station captain or lieutenant, any of the training officers or safety officers that might be out there. We've given you a very basic PowerPoint presentation to start with that has the necessary information, but we want you to add your own local information, SOPs, SOGs, case studies, incidents that you've had occur, or any direction that you get in your own department to customize that training and do it on a company level. For a volunteer station at a nighttime drill, for a career station, it can be done during daytime around a kitchen table.
Okay, and with some interest from at least one of our learners where they find those 10 training packages for the
Sure,
for the training officer.
I'll put the link in the chat box for you in just a second.
Okay, thank you. And another thing, you know, again, all this is great for responder safety, responder awareness. What if you're in a jurisdiction that's actually requiring TIM certification under the National Highway Standard? How do you become a TIM instructor?
Anybody can be an instructor. They just have to have an interest in the subject and make sure that they have the material to present. So I always tell folks there's a difference here. Any fire department instructor who has instructor skills can get the information they need to do local level training at the station level, company level, department level, whichever the case may be. For those folks who want to be TIM instructors for the Federal Highway Sharp 2 program, almost every state now has their own system in place to provide train the trainer training for those individuals who want to be able to teach the Federal Highway TIM program and the materials that they would need to teach it, because a lot of the states have now customized that federal level training to be very much state specific, with state specific rules, regulations, activities, and things like that. So maybe Judy can tell you what they're doing in their state for TIM instructors, but every state now has a system in place to create TIM instructors for the Federal Highway program.
Sure, I'll jump in. In Minnesota, we just got the process started a few months ago with our state DOT, getting some of the players together and figuring out how we can roll something like this out so we include all law enforcement, whether it be local, county, state law enforcement, EMS, tow operators, and fire personnel, how we can get it and make it available and usable and interesting to not just those in the metro area, but those in greater Minnesota in the rural areas, because we all know that there's differences between the two. A lot of the concepts are the same, but some people in rural Minnesota don't ever see a 4-lane highway. So when you start putting pictures of things like that, or the traffic management cameras that are in the metro area, some people lose interest, but the traffic management cameras are great tools for us because I work with a supervisor from MnDOT who grabs the videos of some of the crashes and how they happen, and those are really good to help make it Minnesota specific, especially when you're talking about the weather and things like that. But even those metro videos serve a good purpose for those in rural Minnesota. But we are just getting started on that, and we're looking forward to trying to get it rolled out here within the next 6 to 9 months.
And I think as Jack would attest, that's one of the reasons we stopped a long time ago, stopped calling it highway safety and called it roadway safety, because the same techniques apply whether it's on a 1 or 2 lane rural road or whether it's on a 6-lane interstate. You know, the same techniques apply, and we had to be able to be safe out there on those roadways. So, Jack, one final question. I think on the responder safety network, what about materials that departments can use to help educate the motorists, since those motorists pose dangers to our firefighters and EMS personnel out there? Does the responder safety network have some resources for departments for that?
Yeah, we have a PIO page or a public education page that has links to all of the various resources we have, but we've put together some PSAs that can be downloaded, used in your social media posts or in community meetings. We've got push cards that are available that explain the move over law. Somebody put a study out just recently, I think it was AAA, that seemed to indicate that 75% of the drivers out there today are not aware of move over laws across the country. I just have a hard time understanding that or believing that.
Yeah, every state has one.
Yeah, every state has one. Yes, the laws are a little bit different from state to state, but the idea is still the same. You see emergency vehicles or an emergency incident up ahead, slow down, move over away from the incident scene, give everybody room to operate. The law may be worded a little bit differently in Florida than in South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, but it's all the same intent. And I just don't understand how people can say that. But I'll post a link also for the PIO page that has a variety of resources, materials that can be downloaded and copied for handouts and things like that. If you're doing a community event during Crash Responder Safety Week here in Central Virginia, where I'm located, we have an event going on at the county fairgrounds where all of the different disciplines will bring some apparatus and equipment to the fairgrounds, have different displays to explain to people what goes on at an emergency scene. They're going to demonstrate a vehicle crash and an extrication procedure. They'll have some medical helicopters that will come and go during the course of the day, and just a chance to meet people face to face, talk to them, answer their questions, and provide some materials that they can take home and talk about with their kids, for example, who might be getting their driver's license.
Okay, some great resources there in the Responder Safety Network, and I know that you and the whole team has put a lot of work into it, more than 20 years. Unfortunately, based on some personal experiences that the organization had with the death of a couple members of the Cumberland Valley Association out on the highways. So we've talked quite a bit about the traffic incident management, the need for traffic incident management. That training is available free for all emergency responders, whether it be through the Emergency Responder Safety Institute or whether it be through other sources. And again, becoming a Tim instructor is usually that's governed under the Federal Highway Administration. So you'd have to probably work with your local DOT. I know here in Maryland, Pat Rooney does quite a bit with putting out the classes, both the train and trainer classes, as well as the responder safety for different groups. So that's out there. So NVFC has put together quite a bit. We should be able to post that link to the NVFC webpage. The NVFCs work closely with Federal Highway Administration and the fire service groups, promoting the importance of TIM training under the second Strategic Highway Research Program, which we often refer to as SHARP 2. And there's certainly in-person training, online training available from a multitude of resources. And again, we've talked quite a bit about the Emergency Responder Safety Institute here today. Jack also mentioned Nfpa Standard 1091. That was, again, a big move and push coming out of the Responder Safety Institute. 1091 is a standard for traffic control incident management professional qualifications. Does have a professional qualification status to it, where you can apply for certification right now through the FDSOA. They're kind of our testing authority. So those links should be posted up on the website here shortly as well. So looking for any additional questions from our audience, and I don't see any right now. So we'll take this opportunity. Judy, some closing thoughts.
Yeah, just some practical tips for a lot of people that just to kind of jog their mind, and maybe the need that they might not know everything. A lot of times when I go out and teach these classes, most of the responders, or at least firefighters, are under the impression, well, I'll just shut the roadway down. Yeah. and do it at every scene. And yeah, that's not the answer. All the time. It might be the answer, but you need to learn when it's appropriate and when it's not appropriate. That's why troopers, especially law enforcement, likes to keep traffic moving, because you shut down a roadway, or the more lanes you shut down, there's backup, and somebody's likely to get struck. We always say that traffic's like flowing water. People are impatient. If there's a hole, they will find it. They aren't going to sit in traffic for more than a couple minutes. So you might say you're going to shut things down. You're in the middle of town, shutting things down, and people are not going to sit there. So they're going to turn around. I've seen people drive through other people's yards, go the wrong way on a road just to get to the nearest exit ramp, and cause some additional issues that way. You have to think, if you're shutting the roadway down, where are people going to go? Are they going to go by the elementary school at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when the kids are all out on foot, and now these people are ticked because they're driving, or they've been held up for a little bit, and now they're going to drive fast and they're not going to be paying attention to the kids or something like that. So really just remember, the traffic's like flowing water. If there's a hole anywhere, they're going to try to get through it. And where's that hole going to be? And also, monkey see, monkey do. If they see one person driving the wrong way down the roadway to get out of that traffic backup, they're going to follow. And so you always have to remember that it's not just going to be that one. There's going to be more that are just going to be following. Another practical tip: the least amount of time you're on scene, the safer you're going to be. Get there, do what you need to do, and get out of there as quickly as possible, and open up that roadway or any lanes as quickly as possible. And stay inside your emergency vehicle, belted in, if there's no need for you to be out in the moving traffic. If you don't have an assignment, get back in your vehicle. You have a 100% chance of not being hurt if you aren't out there, being visible and being in the area and getting struck. And so, and just remember the weather, the topography, the sun glare. That's why Jack mentioned the advance warning, and make sure that advance warning is the last vehicle to leave. We've had incidents in Minnesota where the advance warning before the crest of a hill left before the scene was cleared up, and sure as heck, somebody came over the crest of the hill, went right into the scene, and caused additional injuries. So critique your incidents. A couple more things. Critique incidents with the other emergency responders, your mutual aid partners that might have responded, the law enforcement, EMS, and tow operators. And if you don't have a good relationship with them, to start, maybe critique an incident that went really well and get the communication lines open with each other, just so you can just start those to build those relationships. That way, when you do have an incident that did not go very well, everybody isn't after each other's throats just because they're getting very defensive because they figure they're to blame for something. And then just one last thing, our law enforcement in Minnesota have Peace Officer Standard training points that they get post-board, and they have to have so many post credits each year. We did our local, a Minnesota version of Roadway Safety years ago, and we actually got the okay to give post credits to encourage law enforcement to show up to be part of these mixed groups that Jack talked about.
Yeah, that's actually very beneficial in the training environment. I know that Jack actually taught when I took the Tim certification class up at the National Fire Academy. There was a whole group in there of us, of fire, EMS, law enforcement, public works, tow operators, and it opened up your eyes because you were hearing the perspectives from the other groups there. And the other comment you made, I kind of reflect back to too, was that the importance of leaving that traffic control area set up a little bit longer. I try to tell my folks that, we've taken care of the injured, we've taken care of the immediate hazards, but why not stay there another couple minutes, let the tow operator do his or her job, because look at the statistics, the tow operators are the one out there that are getting banged up a lot more than we are, because everybody ignores those yellow lights, even though most of the move over laws now cover them as well. So Jack, closing comments?
I echo Judy's comments about the just shut it down or just shut the road down. I think that's an area we have to be very careful about. There are times when the incident itself will shut the road down. We don't have much of a choice. There are other times because of operations that we need to shut the road down. All I do is caution people, if you're going to shut the road completely, there's a couple of things you got to keep in mind, especially if you have additional apparatus and other emergency vehicles trying to get to your incident scene. You close the road down, you're going to make it more difficult, if not impossible, for the assisting apparatus to get to your location. You need to think about the ancillary services that might be trying to get to you, whether it's law enforcement, towing and recovery, or additional fire apparatus or EMS gear. And then the other thing we've got to think about is the back of the queue. Anybody who has ever been in a position where you're the last car or vehicle in the queue and are watching speeding traffic approaching you from the rear knows how dangerous that position can be. If we're going to shut the road down, we have got to take steps to notify the appropriate parties to protect the back of the queue with a proper advance warning. In those areas where you have safety service patrols, very often it falls in their lap to do that, but somebody has got to let the traffic operations center know that you're shutting the road down and that there's going to be a queue or a backlog developing, and that somebody has to take steps to protect the back of the queue. That takes time, it takes resources, it takes personnel. We've got to keep that in mind. If we're going to shut the road, we've got to protect the back of the queue. I'll tell you another incident that we had occur this year that caught a lot of people's attention out of Irving, Texas. Victor Conley's the fire chief down in Irving, who has done an amazing job coming up with the blocker program that he developed. But they were operating at an incident scene earlier this year. The road had been closed. They closed the road completely. There was no traffic flowing past the incident scene for a variety of reasons. They had been at the scene for an extended period of time when a driver who entered the road going in the wrong way came into the incident scene and struck their personnel. As he put it, with all of the training and the changes in their procedures and the additional blocker apparatus that they've developed in Irving, he now has to be worried about travelers coming the wrong way on the highway and approaching the incident scene from the wrong direction. Every time we seem to get a handle on this subject, somebody comes up with another idea of, here, hold my beer, watch this. And it's just incredible, some of the things we hear. TIM committees are a big deal, whether you call them task groups or committees or whatever you want to refer to them as. Unfortunately, the fire service is not always represented in the numbers that we'd like to see them represented in those committee meetings. And unfortunately, part of that is because sometimes those committee meetings are held at 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning when a lot of the volunteer agencies, for example, can't afford to send people to that meeting. Work with your local disciplines and pick a time, date, day of the week, whatever the case may be, where everybody can attend, whether it's virtually or in person, and maintain that level of communications between and among all of the different disciplines so that everybody's on the same page. I'll reiterate again what I said at the very beginning. We have got to make sure our personnel are trained properly for backing apparatus at incident scenes. And for that matter, backing into the station. If you don't have a drive-through bay type situation, backing incidents seem to be on the rise over the last few years. And that's certainly something that should be 100% preventable if we follow the right procedures. And there is training material related to backing fire apparatus and EMS vehicles on the website for people to use. And the last thing is data. We need help nationwide collecting data on this particular subject. So the Emergency Responder Safety Institute for the last few years has been tracking line of duty deaths associated with struck by incidents, but there isn't really anybody that's got a good handle on the number of injuries or the amount of property damage to emergency vehicles that's incurred each year. And if we want to get some of this stuff done that we've been talking about over the last hour, we're going to need some help and assistance from other agencies, departments, and disciplines. And the first question that any of these folks ask when we approach them about a problem is, well, how big a problem is this? And when we tell them that so far this year, we've had 51 fatalities for emergency responders being struck by vehicles at incident scenes, to us, that's a huge number. To some of these other people that I'm talking to, it's like, nah, it's not even enough to get my attention. That number's not big enough for them. If we can tell them how many line of duty deaths, how many line of duty injuries, how many close calls, and how much property damage and medical costs or bills related to those life-changing injuries in some cases, we've got a much bigger story to tell, but we need help in collecting that information. We recently got some money from the Federal Highway Administration to put together a web page on our website that can be used to report secondary crashes, close calls, or incidents. It probably will be live within the next 30 to 45 days. The draft is done. We're going through the final changes right now. There will be plenty of social media posts and education about that website when it goes live, but we need everybody's help to help us gather data that can be used to sell the people that need to help us with financial resources or whatever to continue to address this problem going into the future.
All right, Jack, very good. Thank you. Thank you and Judy both. I know that, you know, part of shutting down the roadway kind of brings some panic there. You know, we've seen stories of fire officers being arrested and handcuffed. I'm not sure that those are as common as they were at one time. Hopefully there's more training, there's more planning, there's more cooperation going on. But they did have one of the listeners here talking about fire officers in Maryland being arrested and handcuffed. I don't know, you, Jack, do you hear as much of that going on now as we did have at one time?
No, I think the TIM program around the country has helped to smooth some of the edges off of some of those areas. I will be honest with you, there are pockets in the country that I get to where fire, EMS, and law enforcement don't play well together, but they're few and far between. And for the most part, in most areas, especially in those areas where they have good operating TIM committees, for example, a lot of that has passed by the board, and we don't see the number of or the frequency of arrests like we used to in the past. So I think that situation has improved.
Dave, I'll jump in on that too. What I try to recommend too is if you're having a problem, say if it's fire having a problem with their law enforcement, if it's state, maybe go to your county or local to help get that relationship started. If it's local or county, maybe go to the state troopers and try to work with them to help open those doors and get the communication started among agencies. And lots of times it just takes somebody to reach out that olive branch to get it started.
And I think as Jack mentioned, it's very critical that somehow we find out, you know, who is the TIM committee in our jurisdiction and become active with that and become a part of it. And it's usually run by, you know, your Department of Transportation or somebody in the state structure usually runs those and then pushes them down to the low level. So certainly some things that we have to do. So I see no other questions posted out.
Dave,
Yes, go ahead.
if you don't mind, I just like to throw in one thing that
Absolutely.
has been popping up in different states over probably the last decade, and those are the cable barriers. Instead of the metal medians, the cable barriers that run down the median. I encourage not just Tim, and I haven't looked at the Tim, so forgive me. Looked at Tim lately, so forgive me if this has been added in, but cable barriers are cables that are under tension and about 3,000, 8,000 pounds of tension. And so they're really great at stopping vehicles, but vehicles get tangled up in them. And a lot of firefighters believe they can just cut those and everything's going to be good. Well, work with your state DOT on the type of cable system you have and how you can release some of the tension, preferably without cutting, because once you cut them, they're not real easily spliced. And it could take weeks, if not months, and then whole areas unprotected and so on. So I encourage you, if you have cable barriers in your jurisdictions, to make sure you get training on those as well.
Absolutely right. Yeah, I've added a slide or two in my TIM classes for specifically talk about those. Those are like a net. They're meant like a net to, like you said, to catch the vehicles, but they're under extreme amount of tension. And if you cut them, that tension's released, and it's, everyone knows the dangers of cutting a cable under tension, and that's exactly what it is. So I got one last question popped up. It says, wondered if there's a tie in the NFIRS where incident injury is a mandatory field. I don't know if there's anything in NFIRS relative to.
Not that I'm aware of that's specific to traffic related.
Yeah. As Jack mentioned, we're trying to figure out what's the best way to collect some of this data, and I don't know that there's anything in NFIRS to help us right now, but certainly, we could look at that. Any other last comments, Jack or Judy?
Nope, we just need everybody's help on this, and we would hope that they're implementing some procedures on the local level to make sure training's in place, and hopefully build it into the annual in-service training rotation too.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, I'm going to close out our discussion. Our goal was to stay within an hour, and we've done that. I want to thank our panelists, Jack Sullivan and Judy Thill, for being with us today and provide us some of their own experiences, and as well as identifying some resources. There will be some links to the Emergency Responder Safety Institute, Crash Responder Safety Network, the TIM training sites in the video description that follows this video here. So if you have any additional questions that we weren't able to answer, or for the panelists, please email the NVFC communications coordinator for this. That'd be Matthew Odom, and that's at Matthew, common spelling, but I'll spell it anyway, MATTHEW @nvfc.org. And Matthew will make sure that those questions get to our panelists here. Again, I want to thank everyone for spending your time with us this afternoon, and let's be safe out there. Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.